I get angry when people are proud of the addict. I want to celebrate the family. I don't want to celebrate the addict. I want to celebrate the family that dealt with the addict. I want to celebrate the family that supported the addict, the family that had to stand by the addict. I don't want to support the addict because in my heart, they don't deserve it. The family does. Great if, that addict is over that and that addict is past it, but right on for that family because they are the ones that suffered. That addict didn't suffer. That addict was doing exactly what that addict wanted to do. Not that family. Not at all.
Welcome to episode 7 of Kids of Overdose, the show where we hear personal accounts from people who have lost a parent to a substance-related death. Today, we are going to hear Dina's story. She's from California, a proud mom and grandma who also loves her horses. We are nearing the last few episodes of the season. So if you are interested in sharing your experience, email me at candice@kidsovo.com. That's CANDICE at KIDSOFO.com. I'll be waiting. You would not believe how hard it is to find people to share their story. But I know you're out there. So, let's get into it. Thank you for listening to Kids of Overdose.
My name is Dina and I live in California. I'm 49, don't tell anybody, years old. And my father died of a drug overdose when I was 40. He lives in New York and he had been there for a majority of my life. He was absent the majority of my life. Him and my mother were both addicts. I lived with my mother and she was the kids are seen, not heard type of mother. My father, through my childhood, we only saw him a handful of times, but my sister and I, we longed for that relationship with him. When the very few boxes would come, they were so important to us, and we hung on to every little thing that he would do. The very minimal things that he would do, they were so important. The visits that we went on, he was the typical Disneyland dad. He would come to California and we would go to Disneyland. We would go to Knott's Berry Farm. We would go to SeaWorld. We would do all of that stuff because my dad was in the crime world. When he wasn't in prison, he was selling. He would sell drugs, and how he got his money, I really couldn't tell you. He was very secretive in a lot of things, but he definitely gave my sister and I the good life when we did visit him. He would pick us up in limos. He would just lavish us with just this great life. And so of course, when we went home to our mother, it was miserable. It was miserable for her. And I'm sure it didn't make it easy at all. At
Did
all.
you genuinely have a good time when you were with him?
Yeah, as children, we didn't fully understand. We would be there for a few weeks, I think, when we would see him not very often because we'd be at a camp or we'd be at an amusement park or we'd be with whatever girlfriend he had at the time. Now, as an adult, when I look back on it, there was always something going on. There was like he had something going on that he had to use us as, look, I'm a dad. It was a show, is what
So
it was.
you think he was actually like working?
Yeah, I believe so. And so with that's why my sister, I believe, is so angry because she really longed for his attention way more than I did. I was more of my mother's child and she was more my father's child. She was older, so she can remember things a lot better than I can, unfortunately. I actually just had a conversation with her, and me being younger, it's easier for it to roll off my back than it is for her. She's very angry. And when my father
Is
passed,
Do you think it's part of it is because she thinks maybe he was like faking it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She knows that he used us as a tool. He was a showman. He was a showboat. He was East Coast Italian man, and he had to show what he had.
So you didn't know what was real and what wasn't.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. As the years went on, the visits became less and less, and then it was years and years before we had ever seen him again. My sister then ended up moving to New York when I believe she was, I want to say 17, 18 years old. She had moved to New York, and her and I had lost contact because we were never taught how to be siblings. She had moved to New York and we had lost contact, and I hadn't talked to my father in a long time, and I was left with my mother. And through that relationship with my mother, with her addiction, she would just go through the motions of being a mother, but not being a parent. And it was the children are there. Yeah, we had a roof over our head, but that was about it. And through that, I
You had to like take care of yourself.
absolutely, yeah. I got pregnant at a young age. I was 16 years old. I got pregnant, and she kicked me out, and I moved in with my baby's father. And we got married and so on and so forth. And of course, being young, that marriage dissolved. But I went through high school, graduated high school, did everything. My mother did not know that I graduated high school until in my 30s, I went to college. She had no clue that I graduated high school. This is how disconnected that she was. And when I was enrolling in college, and the reason I did enroll in college is at this point, the child that I had when I was in high school, she was enrolling in college. And I was like, shoot, let's do it together. And we did.
Aw.
It was actually pretty neat. It was pretty cool. As I became an adult, for some reason, I felt like my role was to care for and protect my parents. And I don't know why. I don't have a love or I don't want to say I do have an emotional bond for them, but I cannot say that I love my parents, but I feel like I have a duty to them. And back in 2000, I think it was 2016, my son and I had went to New York to get my father. And because I told him that I was going to move him home here to California because he now had gotten sick. And I said, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to move you here to California. And he agreed. And we went there to move him and move him home with me. And it went really bad, went south. I had discovered that he was now doing pills and it was really bad. And I had taken his pills and I told him that he cannot bring pills into my home. And him and I got into a physical altercation. He put me against the wall because I was taking his pills. And at that point, I was like, we can't do this. It's done. We can't do it no more. And my son and I walked out that door and I never looked back. That was it. Never looked back. And then once again, the addict chose the drugs over the family. And I decided that day, I will never put my kids through what he put my sister and I through. So I turned my back.
Did you ever talk to him on the phone or?
No, I never spoke to him again. No. I think about a year or so later, a friend of his called me because he was in the hospital. And he said that he was in the hospital with some kidney or liver failure or something. And I just told him, I said, my father wanted control and he has it now. That's all I can give you. And then a few years later, I was getting ready for school. I was in nursing school and I got a phone call from a lawyer. And it was a lawyer saying that my father had passed because I was his next of kin. My sister is older, but my father made me the next of kin. And my sister lived in New York. But my sister and my father's relationship was strained because he just did not know how to hold a relationship with his children. And my sister, even though she really longed for a relationship with our parents didn't know how to keep a relationship with us at all. Neither one of them. And so lawyer calls, tells me that my father had passed. And unfortunately, when he passed, he was alone in the house that my grandparents had bought back in, gosh, I want to say 1950. So it was their original home that they had bought because my father was a go nowhere, do nothing man that had never held a real job his whole life. He ended up living in that home. His parents has since died, and he ended up with the home where he had lived his whole life, and that's where he had died. And he had nobody, and he had died, and he was there for 7 days, dead in his home before somebody found him. And the person that ended up finding him was one of his drug dealers or his drug friends who ended up finding him. And so when the lawyer called and told me that my father had passed and that he had been dead for 7 days, I just told the lawyer, I want nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. So my sister and I hadn't talked for quite some time, and I kept trying to call her because I didn't have her telephone number. Found her on Facebook, called her on Messenger, couldn't get a hold of her. The last thing I wanted to do was text her this information. She got very upset with me that I text her, our father's dead. And that is exactly how I said it. And because of course now I'm upset because I can't get a hold of her. She keeps hitting decline. And I just said, our father's dead. Because at this point I'm just over it. Because my sister, in her own way, is addicted to trauma and being angry. And my father was addicted to it was cocaine, and then it was fentanyl, and my mother was addicted to cocaine and alcohol. And then in my own way, I ended up being addicted to providing and enabling every single addict. And I finally realized that years later, I broke the chain. I broke it.
How were you enabling, do you think?
Which one? Of my father, when he was sick, he would call me and need money. I'd send him money. When he couldn't do anything, I was willing to bring him home to my house. And if he was here, who knows how long I would have taken care of him. And that could have been horrible. And in a very sad way, I'm glad it turned out the way that it did because I didn't have to put my kids through him being under our roof. Thank God it turned out the way that it did that way. And then my sister, I just keep putting myself in her line of fire because it just makes it easy for her to get it out. And anything that happens in her life, I'm the reason. It doesn't matter what it is, I'm the reason. And I'll give it to her. Someday she'll figure it out. Maybe she won't. But that's the addict behavior. And it's the trauma response to the addict parents. And I know that. And I know that it's not personal, but there's nothing that we can do to change it, unfortunately. As far as my mother's concerned, she's still here, she's local, and I had taken care of her for years. She lived with me for about 7 years. And because she, again, didn't have anything, didn't have anybody, she had remarried. And of course, that fizzled out and it was horrible. And so I took care of her, and it became too much. And the child that I had in high school saw that it became too much. And now my mother lives with her. And now my daughter is taking care of her and in part taking care of me and my mental health by taking care of my mother.
And your daughter's like you.
Very much, yes. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah. She's a breath of fresh air. Very much so.
Your experience was hard as a kid, given the circumstances of your parents and what family life was like. So, do you ever miss him or think of him in any way? Do you even have like pictures?
I do. I have a lot of pictures, and I got a lot of pictures from an ex-girlfriend of his that he had for a long time, and I still talk to her. She was actually a very big part of my life, and when he passed, she had sent me a lot of pictures of him, and my mom actually had a lot of pictures of him. And when I went there to get him with my son, as I was packing him up, I was putting pictures and stuff in my luggage that I wanted to keep. And so when my son and I left, I had all of those pictures in my luggage. So I ended up with actually some pictures of him and my mother, and actually some baby pictures of me and my sister with him. I do have those. And it's, yeah, he was your stereotypical Italian man with the big pinky rings, and yeah, forget about it type of guy. That was him. Yep.
Goodfellas?
Oh yes, 100%. Yep.
Because of the addiction that your parents went through, how does it make you feel like when you see addicts on the street or anywhere? Does it trigger you in any way, or do you feel like you have some type of understanding?
It makes me sad for their family.
Mm.
And I believe that I have a very hard callus. And I might make a lot of people mad with this, but I get angry when people are proud of the addict. I want to celebrate the family. I don't want to celebrate the addict. I want to celebrate the family that dealt with the addict. I want to celebrate the family that supported the addict, the family that had to stand by the addict. I don't want to support the addict because in my heart, they don't deserve it. The family does. Great if, that addict is over that and that addict is past it, but right on for that family because they are the ones that suffered. That addict didn't suffer. That addict was doing exactly what that addict wanted to do,
Hmm.
not that family. Not at all.
I've never thought about it from that perspective before, but it's true. They've been through
Yeah,
hell. And
absolutely.
if even when like I've seen things on TV, I think some people blame the supportive family.
Yeah.
Oh, you shouldn't have done this or you should have done it this way. But yeah, it must be so hard like not knowing what's the right thing to do and
Mhm.
wanting to so many different tactics. You do the tough love, you do give them
Mhm.
whatever they need, just
Hard.
nothing works.
Yeah, yeah. It's the last thing I said to my father that day that my son and I left was, I hope you die and rot in this house. Those were the last words I said to my addict father. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. He died. He rotted in the house. That's what he wanted. He wanted to be alone. He wanted his drugs. He didn't want his family. No matter how hard we tried to be there for him and be part of him, he'd rather be with the drugs. And so there was nothing that we could do for him.
How does your mom feel about the situation and what happened with your dad?
She's an addict herself. So she really didn't have much to say. I'm sure she was happy that he was gone because I think in her own little way, she felt, ha, he got it first type of thing because she's a very unhappy woman. I don't think she really put much thought into him.
How did you feel?
The first flow of emotion was extreme guilt. Extreme, extreme. I still have guilt just because of the last words that I said to him. And when the friend called, guilt, and it still comes in waves of the guilt. But in all reality, relief that I never have to worry about getting that phone call again. The phone call that I was worried of getting, I got. It's over. I never have to deal with it again. I never have to worry about if I'm gonna have to take care of him. I never have to worry about dividing of the property or worrying about paying his bills anymore. It's all over. It's done. So that's just one less thing I have to worry about. And it's freeing to know that that chapter of my life is closed.
Did you ever go to therapy, or was there anything that you've done that you think has helped you with processing all of this?
I haven't went to therapy, but I do talk about it a lot. I have a lot of friends that have pretty much the same story as I do. So we all talk about it and joke about it. And I surround myself with the same type of people. And so we can bounce things off of each other. I don't like to live in a world of resentment and anger. I like to live in a world of I'm going to keep going and I'm going to grow from anything and everything that's put in front of me. I don't like to sit and say, oh, this happened to me, so this is why I'm messed up. No, I like to look at things and say, my parent sucked, so I'm going to be a better parent than my parent was. So just keep moving up. Don't let it slow you down at all. At all.
Do you think that he would feel sorry for putting you through this, you and your sister?
He was an extremely selfish man, extremely selfish. So I don't know. I would want to say, yeah, he's a human, but from what I've seen of him and what I know of him, I don't think so. I don't, because he's the things that he's done over the past. He was an addict and he somehow hacked into my PayPal and stole $2,500 from me.
Oh.
And he didn't care. And I went to PayPal and they told me that it was family fraud and there was nothing I can do about it. He's just a selfish man. So that's it.
Yeah.
I would like to think that if he didn't have the addiction, he wouldn't be like that, but
You don't know him any other way.
no other way. Mm-mm.
So, from like your perspective, what would you tell someone who maybe is like having the similar experience to you, where having a really difficult relationship with a parent who's struggling with addiction? What would you tell them?
Not to let that parent weight them down, that they need to focus on themselves because that parent is focusing on themselves enough. That parent has enough focus on them. That child needs to focus on moving forward, and that child needs to worry about themselves because that parent's not worrying about them at all. And if that child continues to worry about that parent, that child's gonna just, it's like running up a hill in sand. That child needs to just let that parent go because that parent is grown. That parent can take care of themselves. And that child just needs to move forward. Don't let anything get in their way because they'll be very, very surprised of what they can accomplish once they just get rid of that weight. They need to get rid of that weight and they will fly. They will get out there. And it's hard. It's really hard because even me, like I take care of my not my father anymore, but my mother, but I still am free because there's a boundary. You make that boundary and it doesn't stop you. Just let that boundary and you'll be fine.
You, according to the issues that your parents had with drugs, it would look like you have the odds stacked against you because of many studies that are out there saying
Mhm.
if children are raised in a household where the parents are users, that child has a higher chance of becoming a drug abuser themselves. So even with all these odds, you seem to be really happy with your family and your
Oh yeah.
kids, and you work in the medical field and you went to
Hmm.
college,
Yep.
and from watching your TikTok videos, you have beautiful horses
I
and
do.
looks like you live in a beautiful place.
I do.
Like, how did you get there?
This is going to sound really odd, and I do not condone teen pregnancy by no means, but I will tell you this. Me getting pregnant at a young age was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Honestly, I will tell you that because it got me out. And thankfully, my baby's dad, we're no longer together, but he took care of me and our child, and he showed me a whole other world. And I'm thankful for that. And she was my reason to be better. I was lucky. I used her as a reason to be better. I didn't use her as a reason to say, poor me. I saw her as a reason to go, hey, I don't want that. I want to be better for her. And that's all I did. And her dad and I didn't work out, but thankfully, shortly thereafter, I met my now husband, and him and I have been married for 29 years last week. And we're doing
Congrats.
the dang thing. know?
What do you think would have happened if you didn't have your daughter at 6?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because you would have still stayed living with your mom, right? Your dad had already been gone, like
Yeah.
it's in New York.
Yeah. I mean, from, I don't know, because just thinking of what was happening in my mother's household at the time, she was going through a rocky point with her then husband. My younger brother was in the house at the time, and it was pretty bad. So I probably would have been couch surfing with friends, or who knows what would have happened.
Seeing
So,
what you saw when you were growing up, did it make you not want to do drugs?
oh yeah, no, I've never been any type of drug person.
So it had the opposite effect on you.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It just never ever wanted to be that at all. At
Okay.
all. It never looked at all appealing to me.
So they showed you what you didn't want in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. And I do think also being a very young mom, I really didn't have the opportunity to be a loser. I just
You're
always
so busy. You have
I was a mom at pregnant at 16, a mom at 17, and I was a wife and a mom very young, and that's all I wanted to be. And I was cool with that. Now I'm a grandma and I'm loving every minute of it.
if you could talk to your dad one last time, what would you tell him?
Put the dogs out. And the reason I say that is because when he died, his dogs were in the house and his dogs ate his feet. In the end, his choices that he made in life, all he had were his dogs. He had no family, he had no friends, he had nobody except his dogs. And his dogs turned on him in the end because that's all he had. And that's what addiction gets you. It's unfortunate. It really is.
I hope that your story will help somebody who is struggling through addiction, maybe give them some inspiration and incentive to stop.
Me too. I feel the way that he died is so horrible. That the way that it's so graphic. I could go into detail of how they found him and how they cleaned it up, and it's if just one person doesn't have to die like that. Great. That is awesome. If one other daughter doesn't have to clean up their father's blood, we did our job.
And have to
Yeah.
go through the pain that you went through
Oh, yeah.
and him being able to have the opportunity to have a wonderful relationship with two daughters
Yeah.
and didn't end up having any of that,
Yeah.
just thrown
Nothing.
away.
Yeah. And yeah, and he has a granddaughter in New York and my sister in New York, and he has 6 great grandchildren that he never met because of his addiction. And
The
it's
addiction became his family, became his
yeah,
everything, the
yeah,
only thing.
yeah. And he has a grandson that looks just like him and that actually is named after him. And it's unfortunate.
Is that hard for you, having a grandson named after him? Oh my goodness. I named my son, he's 1 in a couple months, after my dad. And ever
Yeah.
since I was 5, my dream was when I get older, I want to have a little boy and I'm going to name him after my dad.
Yeah.
But I have really good memories with my dad. He was so young. He was like only 25. But when I was pregnant, I was like, okay, yeah, now I get to have a son and name him after my dad. I started freaking out like mentally.
Mm.
I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, what if because I name him after my dad, he's going to end up like my
Oh
dad?
yeah. Yeah.
Am I putting like a curse on my son?
Mhm.
And I was so freaked out, and I was pregnant, and I also had perinatal depression,
Oh yeah.
which I didn't have with my first child, but maybe because it was a boy and it brought up so much with my dad. I don't know.
Mhm.
Either way, it just freaked me out. But luckily, I got better by the end of the pregnancy. I named him after my dad, and I'm so happy that I did that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's all good now. He's gonna have his own life. All
Yeah.
because he's
Absolutely.
named after my dad. It's a nice memory, but he's gonna be his own person.
Oh yeah.
And he gets to create a new Lewis. And so now I'm good with it. But how was it for you at first?
Yeah. So my son's birthday is April 10th and my father's birthday is April 11th.
Wow.
So there's that. I really love the fact that my son is named after my father, and he loves the fact that he is named after my father. I actually have my maiden name tattooed on my arm here. I take pride in who I am. I have no pride in who he is, but I take pride in who I am. My grandparents, I take pride in who they are. I take pride in the name that they gave me, not him. So
Mm,
my grandfather also carries my father's name. My
yeah.
son carries my grandfather's name as well. So it goes full circle. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
So
it's more of a family name, not
mhm.
just
Yeah,
revolving around your dad. There's
yeah. So
way more to it than that.
it's a family name. And my son's okay with it because my dad, he gave my son me and he's okay with that.
Do you mind me asking what your dad's name is?
Lance Anthony.
Okay,
Yep.
nice.
So my sister won't let me say our last name.
Oh, okay. No, Lance Anthony is nice, and I feel like we should know the name of the person that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, no, she was very upset if I was going to say our last name, so I cannot say our last name. So,
No worries. All good. Thank you so much.
no, thank you very much. Thank you.
I
I
think
really
this is
hope.
this is really gonna help some people.
I hope so. I hope it resonates with not only the child, but also the addict. I hope.
Dina introduced me to a completely new perspective that I never thought about before. The families taking care of the addicts, and the families having to endure the pain and grief of losing their loved one to this disease. Let this be a reminder to have sympathy and gratitude for family members like those. If you are grieving, it helps many people to connect with others who share similar experiences as you. You can go online to search for local bereavement groups. GRASP is one of them, and you can find more information on locations throughout the U.S. on grasphelp.org. This podcast is not sponsored in any way. Music and cover art is from Pixabay. Thank you again for listening to Kids of Overdose, and take good care.